Good morning, Morai Rabotai. We are continuing on Masechet Berachot, and we are on Daf Lamed Aleph, Amud Aleph, 4 lines up. Thank you so much. From the bottom of the Amud, we are going to study the very famous story of Hannah, the mother of Shmuel HaNavi. We mentioned that she was barren for 19 plus years, and finally she got answered, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave her Shmuel HaNavi. We mentioned the gist of the story yesterday. Now we're going to actually go through the psukim, and the Gemara is going to learn many details of halachot from it. Says the Gemara, Amar Rav Hamnuna, Kama hilchta guvraita, how many great halachot we could learn from the psukim of the story of Hannah. First and foremost, it says, V'chanahi medaberet al libah. This is where Hannah has been hurt by her tzara, the other wife of Elkanah, Penina, and now she came to Beit Hashem, she came to the Mishkan, to daven to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and it says, Hannah medaberet al libah. She was speaking on her heart. That from here you see the heart, al libah, that she was davening with all of her heart. You see from here that the tefillah is not just uttering the words, but rather your heart has to be into it. It has to be with kavanah. Next learning that we have from this is Rak sfatah naot, that her lips were moving. You hear from this pasuk, Mikan lemitpalel shiachtov bisfatav, that you have to lip the words at the very least. You can't just daven, so to speak, in your heart. It has to be something that you could verbalize with your lips, mentioning the words. And the next one is the kolah lo yishamea, that her voice was not actually heard. In other words, you have the lips moving, but the voice is not heard. So you have to do the tefillah with your lips, not just in your heart. But at the same time, the difficulty is that you cannot be loud enough that people could hear it. From here you see that it's asur to raise your voice in the tefillah. That Eli considered her as a drunken. Eli thought that she was so besides herself, the way she was davening, that she looked like a shikora, she looked like a drunken. Says the Gemara, Mikan sheshikor asur leitpalel, because Eli over there gives her some musar. He says, Ad matai tishtakarin, why are you davening here while being intoxicated? So you see from here that a drunken, a person that's under the influence of alcohol, cannot daven, right? Hashtag Kiddush Club. You can't daven while you have been consuming alcohol. Vayomer eleha, we're going to get more to this. The Gemara later on is going to say actually that someone that drinks is not a good thing at all, which we're going to explain it as we get there. And what does Eli say? Vayomer eleha Eli, ad matai tishtakarin. Eli HaKohen, who was the Kohen Gadol at the time, tells Hannah, he says, until when you want to be intoxicated and you're coming to the Beit HaMikdash, to the Mishkan, to daven, it's asur. Amar Rabbi Lazar, Mikan lero'eh b'chavero. From here, Rabbi Lazar said, when somebody sees in his friend davar she'eno hagun, something that's not proper, sarich lehochicho, you have to give him tochacha, which means that even if it's not something that's, a biblical isur, you already have a pasuk that says, "Hocheach tocheach et avitecha velo tisa alav chet. Now, davening when you're intoxicated is not necessarily asur from the Torah itself. It's a rabbinic prohibition. So you see from here that even if the averah, if the sin that's being committed is not a biblical level of sin, but it's rather just a rabbinic one, you have to tell the person, you take responsibility for another yid. You can't just see someone doing something and say, well, politically it's not correct to say something. I'm going to risk my friendship with him. I'm not going to say anything. You're responsible to tell him. Now, Chana answers it. Right? She doesn't take it sitting. V'tan Chana v'tomar, lo adoni. She says, no, my master. Amar Ula said, V'itema Rabbi Yossi b'Rabbi Hanina. Those who say this was Rabbi Yossi b'Rabbi Hanina who said it. Amra leh, lo adon ata b'davar zeh, v'lo ruach hakodesh shoreh alecha, she'ata choshtani b'davar zeh. She said, is you a master over this matter? Aren't you a Baal Ruach HaKodesh? Don't you have a Holy Spirit within you to know that I am not drunken? That you are suspecting me to be a drunk. Says the Gemara, Ika de Amri, there are those who say she said it a little bit different tone. Amra le, lo adon ata, lav ika shchina v'ruach HaKodesh kabach. Don't you have Shekhinah with you? Don't you have Ruach HaKodesh? Shedantani lekaf chovat, that you are not giving me the benefit of the doubt and you are judging me negatively. Velo dantani lekaf zchut, and you're not giving me the benefit of the doubt and judging me favorably. Milo yadata, don't you know what my history is? If you would have had Ruach HaKodesh and Shekhinah was with you, you should have known what my background is. The Ishak Shat Ruach Anochi. I am an Ishak Shat Ruach. I've had a very difficult life. 19 years I've been davening, crying, pleading, begging for HaKadosh Baruch Hu for one child. That's my history. Don't you see that through your Ruach HaKodesh? You should know that it's not from intoxication. I did not drink any wine. I did not drink any other sort of alcohol. Amar Rabbi Lazar, mikan lenechshat b'davar she'en bo sh'tarich leodio. Rabbi Lazar said, you see from this Chana that if somebody suspects you of something you haven't done, you must clarify. You can't just say, well, Hashem knows I didn't do it. Not sufficient. V'yitem nekiyim Hashem u'Yisrael. You have to be clean in the eyes of Hashem, right, correct, but also in the eyes of Israel, in the eyes of the people as well. So therefore, even though that was a little chutzpah to speak directly like that to the Kohen Gadol, she made a point to say, no, you're making a mistake. I'm not drunk. And then she says, Al titeret amatcha lifnei bat Belial. Do not compare me with a bat Belial, with a woman that doesn't have any standards. Belial means someone that does not have any standards and is the nickname for someone that does avodah zarah, as we're going to see in just a moment. Amar Rabbi Lazar says, Mikan leshikor shemitpalel kilu oved avodah zarah. When a drunk person davens, it's equivalent of doing avodah zarah. It's a very strong word to say. Now, I want to share with you, the Gemara says in Eruvin, Daf Samach Dalet Amud Aleph, 64a, the Gemara there says that the reason that this is a big deal is that two different levels of being drunk. One is shatui, one is shikor. Shikor is a person that cannot speak in front of a king, is completely intoxicated. Shatui is a person that drank a Ravi'ita wine. Ravi'ita wine is 3 ounces of wine. So Shatui, and Shcharuch Paskins this in Siman Saditet, Sif Bet, as a normative halacha, that the shatu is someone that has had a revi'it of wine, cannot daven. Now, if you research and you want to know how much that is, the normal fermentation of alcohol in normal grapes is about, maximum amount of it would be 18%. Now, if they used to, in the time of Chazal, they used to actually dilute the water 1 to 3, so 1/4 was only wine. So if you say that if you say that the nature has not changed from 2,000 years ago until now, which many do have that assertion, then 1/4 of that is will be 4.5%, basically, right? So it's a very low level alcohol, and that's 3 ounces. So if you have a 40% alcohol content, you'll have 0.3 ounces, basically, would be exactly the amount that would of alcohol that would prohibit you from davening, which I think 1 shot of alcohol or something similar to that for a normal body would be the amount. So
between when you drink to when you can play again.
So that we have to discuss that. This is a different sugya in that Gemara, but either you have to sleep or you have to wait a certain period of time, which is not immediately before Musaf, or in the case of Simchat Torah, will become a little bit more complicated. People who do hakafot and they have a kiddush between Shacharit and Musaf. So that's something that they have to be very, very mindful, because this becomes actually a halachic complexity for those things, especially when the Gemara says that your equivalent of Oved Avodah Zarah. The Rashba explains not on the Chidushei Rashba, but there's Rashba in on En Yaakov, on the Agatas of the Gemara. He explains that the reason for this being comparable with Avodah Zarah is because when you do Avodah Zarah, what happens? You are choosing wrong over right? And when a person is intoxicated, that basically encourages a person to make wrong decisions, to reject the right, and to be very much more open to accepting something that is wrong. So that's the reason that the Gemara compares it with Avodah Zarah. But be that as it may, the Gemara says, Amar Rabbi Lazar, Mikan l'shikor shemitpaler kilu oved Avodah Zarah. It's a pretty strong language. How do I know? Says Rabbi Lazar. Because over here it says, Difteh bat Belial. Don't compare me with bat Belial. And if you want to know what Belial means, take a look at the pasuk that says, Yatzu anashim b'nei Belial. The people, when it's talking about Anshe Irani Dachat, a city that all did Avodah Zarah, and now they're Chayav Mitam, it says, Anshe anashim b'nei Belial. So you see, Belial means Avodah Zarah. Says the Gemara, Male halan Avodah Zarah. Just like over there is talking about Avodah Zarah, over here also is talking about Avodah Zarah. Afkan Avodah Zarah. Here also is Avodah Zarah. Now the Gemara says, Vayan Eli answers her. It says, basically realizing that he made a mistake. It says, Lechi shalom. Go for peace. Amar Rabbi Elazar, Mikal lechoshed et chavero b'davar she'en bo shesarich lefayeso. You see from here that if you suspect someone wrongly, then you have to appease them. You can't just say, well, okay, sorry. You have to actually give them a bracha, as well, the Gemara says. Not only you have to appease them and make it up to them, you must give them a blessing. You must give them a bracha. Shenemar, as it says, Yisraeli tenet shelatech. Hashem should give what you have been asking for. So Rabbi Chaim Kanievsky actually brings from here, we alluded to this yesterday, that says, well, Hanan, 19 years has been davening. It didn't occur to her to go get a bracha from Eli. It seems like she got a bracha, and right away she got pregnant with Shmuel. So why didn't she do this before? That says Rabbi Chaim Kanievsky, when a person is obligated to give a bracha, feels the obligation to give a bracha to someone else, that bracha carries a whole lot of weight. That bracha is not just an ordinary bracha. When Eli felt that he had wronged her by suspecting her, now he had to really make it up to her, and the entire weight of Eli's zchuyot is behind this bracha. It's a totally different level of a bracha.
This is like the Sotah example.
This is like the Sotah example, meaning
The Sotah, if you suspect the woman and she's actually innocent, after she drinks, not only is she relieved of dying, but she gets pregnant the next year.
well, again, so that's something that we're going to discuss in, just a moment. The Gemara actually is going to say that was partially the backdrop cheshbon and calculation that she had in mind, which we're going to go back to the original psukim when she started davening to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and you'll see the connection with what you're just bringing up. Says the Gemara, but Tidor Neder Vatomar, this is 5 lines up from the wide lines. She made a neder and she said to Hashem during her tefillah, Hashem tzvakot, Amar Rabbi Elazar, miyom shbara HaKadosh Baruch Hu et olamo, lo haya adam shekaro HaKadosh Baruch Hu tzvakot ad shvat Chana. Until the day that Chana came around, there was nobody that called Hashem with the title of Hashem tzvakot, the God of, what's tzvakot? Tzvakot is one of the 7 names that are not nimchakim, that you cannot erase. It's one of the kinuim of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? It means, what's seva? Army. What's tzvakot? Right? HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you have created, she said, all of this magnificent army of the entire creation, billions of people, the malachim, the animal kingdom, so many creatures you have created. And Chana is referring to it like this, says the Gemara. Miyom shbara kadosh baruch hu et olamo lo haya adam shekara HaKadosh Baruch Hu tzvakot ad shpat Chana v'krato tzvakot. Amra Chana, last narrow line. This is what Chana is saying. Ribono shel olam mikol tzvayei tzvakot shebarata beolamecha. From all of the armies, all of the creatures that you created in your universe. It is difficult in your eyes to give me one little son. What is one creature? What is this like? Example of it is, imagine a mighty king that made a tremendous suda. Hundreds of thousands of people are invited. And one poor man comes and stands over there. Amar lahem, tenuli prusa ahat. And he told the people of the king, so give me one piece of bread. They didn't give it to him. They didn't even care about him. What did he do? He pushed his way through and came in front of the king himself. Amale Adoni HaMelech, says, my master, my king, Mikol Suda Shasita. Look at what the expenditure of this Suda. How much food, how much delicacies. Can't you give me one piece of bread? So that's what he was saying. She was calling Hashem Tzvakot, to infer this very point. Says you have all the Sifkot HaShamayim, all the Malachim, all the galaxies, all the people, all the animal kingdom. Look at what you've created. Give me one son. What is it already? Berachot 31a. Now, this is where the point that you were bringing up. Says the Gemara, this is 4th wide line. Berachot 31a, if you will see seeing. If seeing, you will see. As we would translate, right? What does that mean? If seeing, you will see. Why do you have a double language? To just say, why do you have to say, if seeing, you will see? What's the double language? Says the Gemara. She's saying something very important and meaningful over here. Amar Rabbi Elazar, Amra Chana lifnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Chana is saying in front of Hashem, Ribono shel olam, Hashem. Imra'o mutav. If you see by yourself with my tefillah, great. Ve'im love, and if you don't listen to my tefillah, you don't accept my tefillah, I will have a way to force the system. I will have a way to force the system. How do I do it? I will go and I will seclude myself with a stranger man in front of Elkanah, my husband. Once I do that, mashkuli mesota, I will be safek sota. The halacha is, if a woman secludes herself with a man, and the husband says, don't do that, and she does it again, in front of Edim, the husband will take her to the Beit HaMikdash, the Mishkan, and they will give her to drink mesota. Now, mesota has miraculous effects. If she has wronged, she will blow up and die. If she hasn't, and the suspicion has been wrong, then she will be blessed. We're going to discuss the blessing right now, of what extent of blessing it will be. But the Gemara now suggests that this is how you could twist, so to speak, the system to your benefit. I will go and be mistater. I will go and seclude myself in front of Elkanah, and they will give me mesota, the water of sota. And I know, Hashem, that you do not deny your own words in the Torah, that it says over there, the Torah says, if she was nakia, if she was clean, and she was not sinful, she will have a zera, which means she'll have children. So I could use the same system to force my way through to have a child if you don't listen to my tefillah by itself. Says the Gemara, wait a second. You're taking sides, says the Gemara. There are two ways of understanding this pasuk, v'niketa v'nizra azara. How can you understand the pasuk in two different ways? Lemanda amar im hayta akara nifkedet shapir. There is a manda amar, there is an opinion that even if she would be an akara, even if she's barren and she cannot possibly have kids, miraculously she will have kids. That's one understanding. El almanda amar im hayta yoledet besar yoledet berevach. But there's another manda amar that says no, an akara, a barren woman, would not have children. Would not. What does it mean, Nizra Azara? That means her zera would be blessed. Her children will be blessed. In other words, if she would be having children with a lot of difficulty until now, she will now give birth in 5 minutes. Easy. No epidural, no hospital. Easy. No OBGYNs, right? And it will be easy. If nekavot, yoledet zcharim. Shchorim, yoledet levanim. Ksarim, yoledet aruchim. It will be better things that she would want. If she would want boys, that's what she would have. If she would want, lighter complexion, that's what she would have. Tall, she would have. But not that a barren woman would have children. According to that, mandamar ma'ika lememar. How do you understand the tefillah of Chana, of the double language of Imra'ot 31a be'oniamatecha? If seeing, you will see. How do you understand that? Says the Gemara. The Tanya, before we answer the question, I will show you that there is such a legitimate shita in the Braita, because it's a beferja Braita. It's a clear Braita that says v'nikta v'nizra azara. The pasuk that says v'nikta v'nizra azara, that if she was clean and innocent, she will have nizra azara. She would have zera. Melamed she'im hayta akara nifkedet. Says the Braita, it teaches you that even if she was akara, even if she couldn't have children, she will have children miraculously. Divrei Rabbi Ishmael, that's what Rabbi Ishmael holds. Look at Tanaim it is. Amar le Rabbi Akiva tells Rabbi Ishmael, wait a second. If you say that that's the case, im ken yelchu kol akarot kulan v'stateru. All of the akarot will misuse this pasuk and will go and do yichud and will become sota. So therefore says, and the one that did not mess up, did not sin, would be having children. So says Rabbi Akiva, that's impossible. That's not the pshat. Ela melamed, says Rabbi Akiva, what's the pshat? The pshat is, this teaches us, if she was having difficulty of childbirth, she would now give birth easily, with easy delivery, easy pregnancy. If she had short ones, she will have tall ones. If she had one, now she's going to have twins. So according to that, according to this understanding, my Ibrahot tireh. What is the pasuk saying? If seeing, you will see. Says the Gemara, Dibra Torah, Kirshon bnei Adam. You don't have to darshan it. Sometimes the Torah speaks in the language of bnei Adam, of us. And sometimes we emphasize when we want to say, you surely will see. So that's how we say, Imra'ot tireh, I really beg you to see what my situation is. So that's answer to your question that you asked before, whether or not we even have that drasha that Akara would give birth. Rabbi Akiva would disagree with you. Not sure if you could take him on, but Rabbi Yisraeli is supportive. Says the Gemara. Nah. So says the Gemara, Be'ani amatecha, ve'lo tishkach et amatecha. Says, if you see ani amatecha, that's one amatecha. Ve'lo tishkach et amatecha, that's two. Ve'natata la'amatecha, 3 times amatecha, your maidservant. And says the Gemara, Amar Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Hanina, Gimel amatot halalu lama. Why do you have 3 times that she says amatecha, amatecha, amatecha? Says the Gemara, Amra Chana Lifnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, she says in front of Hashem, Ribono shel olam, Shlosha bitke mita barata. You have created 3 items that when a person is in danger, min hashamayim, they check her, a woman, to see how she's doing in those 3 areas, to see if she should be released from the danger or not. And what are they? We're going to see. There are those who say 3 things that bring close to death for a woman, chas v'shalom. These are the 3 nida, chala, v'hadlakat haner, the 3 mitzvot of a woman, right? Rashi tevot chana, chala, right? Nida, and hadlakat haner. Klum avarti al achat mehen. Have I ever transgressed any of them that now I'm going through such a difficult life? And even though that this is death, one of the 4 groups of people who are considered dead is someone that doesn't have a child. A childless person is chashuv kemet. It's like a death. How do we know that? We learn from Rachel Imenu. Rachel Imenu tells Yaakov Avinu, says, Havali banim, give me children. Ve'im lav meta anoch. If not, I'm considered like a dead person. Right? So that's one of the 4 categories of people who are considered like dead. A suma is considered like dead. A blind person, is considered like dead. Right? Ani is chashuv kemet. Besorah is chashuv kemet. So that's my 2 dots. This is one.
They should all have a refuah. Amen. Whoever is barren should have a
Amen ve'amen. Yes. ונתת לאמתך זרע אנשים. Says the Gemara, ונתת לאמתך זרע אנשים. מהי זרע אנשים? She asks Hashem, give me zera anashim. Give me children that are anashim. What is she asking for? Zera is singular form. Anashim is plural form. So what is she exactly saying? Says the Gemara, Amar Rav darshan did Gavra beguvrin. Someone that is a head amongst heads, right? He's a figure in a who's who gathering. Someone that is really big. Shmuel says no. Zera shemosheach shnei anashim. someone that is going to anoint and appoint two very chashuv people. Shmuel HaNavi nominated and anointed two of the first two kings, Shaul HaMelech and David HaMelech, right? Uman inun Shaul v'David. Rabbi Yochanan says yet another pshat. Zera sheshakul kishnei anashim. Give me a child that is equivalent to two people. Who are those two people? Moshe and Aaron. Moshe Rabbeinu and Aaron HaKohen. How do we know that Shmuel HaNavi was in some aspect comparable to Moshe and Aaron combined? Because the pasuk says Moshe v'Aaron bekohanav. Moshe and Aaron together, u'Shmuel bekoreh Shemo. Shmuel on the other side. V'Rabbanan Amri, and Rabbanan, Chachamim say, Zera Anashim, this is the most down-to-earth one. You know what Zera Anashim means? Exactly the opposite of what we just said in the past three. Not someone that sticks out and stands out, but someone that's muvla ben Anashim, someone that's swallowed up between the people. What does that mean? Ki ata Rav Dimi explained what Rabbanan meant. Lo aroch velo gus, not too tall, not too short. Lo katan velo alam, not too thin and frail, and not too strong in body mass type. Velo sachor velo gicho, not too white, not too dark. Lo chacham velo tipesh, not chacham and not fool. Which again, this doesn't necessarily mean chacham the way we understand it, even though that it could. Rashi says, "V'lo chacham yoter midash lo yeh temach b'nei haberiyot u'mitoch nidbarim bo sholetet bo ayin hara." It shouldn't be someone that people are talking about, because then it'll be ayin hara, and that's what the Rashi understands. Some could understand this. The chacham, sometimes the genius used to be considered part of disorders, because the majority of real genius people, they are socially awkward, they are not necessarily capable people in other aspects of their lives. So to have a normal genius is a blessing. So I want someone that is too chacham, but also not too tipesh. It's a blessing to be a normal person, says the Gemara. Ani ha'isha nitzevet imecha bazeh. She comes afterwards. This is a pasuk. After Shmuel HaNavi was born, she stayed until she was finished with raising him, nursing him, and she brings him to dedicate him and his life to the avodah of Beit HaMikdash, the Mishkan, and avodat Hashem. And she reminds Elise, she says, I am the woman that stood with you, and we davened for this child. Amar Rabbi Elazar, Amar Rabbi Yisho ben Levi, Mikan she'asur leshev betoch 400 shel tefillah. From here we learn that it's asur to sit next to a person that's davening Shemona Esrei. How so? Because she says, Ani ha'isha nitzevet imecha bazeh. I was standing with you. So you see from here that not only Hannah was standing when she was davening, but Eli also couldn't sit next to her. He was standing next to her davening also. So within the vicinity 4 amot of a person that's standing, it's asur to sit. Now this becomes machloket rishonim, whether or not even if you are davening yourself, it's asur to sit next to somebody that is davening. Now this could happen sometimes. Someone comes late to tefillah, someone is davening Shemona Esrei, and you want to sit next to them, put on tefillin, whatever, or it is, you want to just sit down and relax a little bit. Or at home, your wife is davening Shemona Esrei, and you want to just sit on the couch and read, whatever it is. Can you do that? No, you cannot do it. How about in shul, if I want to daven, I'm davening. So that becomes machloket rishonim. Whether if I am davening, I'm also doing tefillah, maybe I could sit next to them. But the core of this is because the Shekhinah resides with the person that's davening, and the immediate surrounding of theirs, which is 4 amot or a radius, it would be a place of Shekhinah. Is disrespectful to sit there.
So what happens if you're sitting in tefillah right? And you just haven't caught up with the tzibur. So there's
Okay, if you're sitting there, that's your makom. You were sitting there before this person starts tefillah. You don't have to move because he's coming to your territory. You're not going there to his territory. So that's only for tefillah. Says the Gemara. She says to him, I davened for this kid. So what does that mean? I davened for this kid. Amar Rabbi Elazar, Shmuel moreh halachot b'fnei Rabbi. Shmuel was moreh halachot b'fnei Rabbi. What does that mean? A student cannot paskin halachot in presence of his Rebbe unless he takes permission. Without getting permission, you cannot paskin halachot in front of your Rebbe. So the Gemara says Shmuel was a moreh halachot b'fnei Rabbi. Now you have to mind you that Shmuel was a 2-3-year-old here, a little kid, but a real genius little kid, right? So what happened? What was the story? The story is like this: when she brings him to Eli Kohen after she basically was done nursing him, after 2-3 years. The pasuk says, "Vayishchatu et apar." When she brought him, they shechted a cow. V'yaviu el hanar el Eli, and they brought the nar, the kid, to Eli Kohen. The Gemara says basically, what's the juxtaposition of these two things? What does it have to do with shechting a cow? It says they shechted the cow and they brought him to Eli. What's the connection between shechting a korban and bringing him to Eli Kohen? Says the Gemara, it has a lot to do with each other. Mishum de vayishchatu et apar, if you are not an Eli, is the question we just said outside. That means because they shechted a cow, they have to bring the kid to Eli. What's the connection? Elam, Gemara says no. The connection is like this. Amar lahen Eli, kiru kohen laiti v'dishchot. Eli said, call a kohen to come and shech the cow, the korban that was there to be brought. Chazinu Shmuel, so the little Shmuel sees that they are looking for a kohen they can't find. They're looking for a kohen to come and shech. Amar lehu, he told them, Lama lechu le'adure batar kohen. Why do you have to wait for a kohen? The little Shmuel kid is telling the people in the Mishkan, and says, why are you guys looking for a kohen? You don't need a kohen for this. What, don't you know the halacha? That's exactly what he's saying. So don't you know that the basic halacha of korbanot? All the other things after shechita has to be done by a kohen. Kabbalat adam, zrikat adam, all of the rest of the avodot, rest of the process of korban has to be done by a kohen. Shechita is the only avodah that is kasher bezar. A non-kohen could do shechita also. So just get somebody to shech. Why do you need a kohen? Right? He paskined for them against the psak of Eli. Eli said, go find a kohen. Shmuel said, no, you don't need a kohen. Just get the Yisrael to do it. Right? Don't waste time. Shechita bezar kshera. It's kasher to do through a Yisrael. I too lekamed Eli. They brought him in front of Eli. He said, he argues with you. You said, go find a kohen. And he says, you don't need a kohen. So Amaleh, Eli says to Shmuel HaNavi, Shmuel, not Navi at the time, Shmuel HaKatan really here in this case, the little Shmuel. Menalacha, how do you know this halacha? Amaleh, he said, what do you mean? Mikti v'shachat ha-kohen? The pasuk doesn't say v'shachat ha-kohen. It says v'ikrivu ha-kohanim. It says the kohanim should bring it, which means mikabala ve'elach mitzvat keuna. From accepting of the blood and on is the mitzvah of a kohen. But prior to that is kasher. That means shechita is kasher bezar. A non-kohen could do shechita. Now, what Eli answers, the shocking answer of Eli Kohen and the punishment that he assumed for Shmuel at a young age, which a young kid is not chayav, be'onshim. You don't punish a person that's not bar mitzvah. So why Eli wanted to punish him? And the tremendous punishment assumed for this is something that we have to study very carefully. And Bezat Hashem will continue that in the days to come.
Shabbat shalom.